Once upon a time, there lived two friends named Fade and Tosin. Fade and Tosin were best of friends who married two cousins. The two families lived in unity for so many years until calamity befell Fade, who lost her husband to the cold hands of death. According to custom and tradition, if any man dies, his brother, or in the absence of a brother, then his cousin is obligated to marry his late brother's wife. Also, this is applicable if the woman has a child for her husband before he passed on. But on the other hand, if she doesn't have a child for her husband before he passed on, she is free to marry anyone she so wishes. Only a child ties a woman to the family of her late husband. Fade and Tosin did not see this coming, as they were so excited to marry their husbands who were cousins and bears the same surname. They saw this as solidifying their friendship. They won't just be friends, but will be part of the same family. When Fade lost her husband, Tosin, although sad for her friend's loss, was only focused on what will happen thereafter, as Fade was already pregnant for her husband before his demise. Tosin could not help but wish for the termination of the pregnancy, as that is the only thing that will make her husband to marry Fade. And without that, Fade will be free to marry any other man. So one day, she walked up to Fade to ask her intention. "Fade, now that your husband is dead, what do you intend to do?" she asked. "I don't plan on doing anything. Tradition says I'll have to marry his brother, which is your husband. It's even better since we are friends. Our bond will become stronger," she replied happily. Tosin looked annoyed. "I don't see it the way you are seeing it though. I will suggest you terminate your pregnancy so that you will be free to marry anybody you wish, because I'm not ready to share my husband with anybody, not even you, my best friend. I can't," she said. Angrily, Fade stood up. "How could you imagine a thing like that? You mean I should kill my own child?" She felt disappointed that her friend will say such. She walked away angrily. When Tosin saw that Fade was unwilling to terminate the pregnancy, she began to act hostile towards her. She kept away from Fade and did not help her do anything whenever her pregnancy became an issue. This sowed a seed of discord in Fade's heart, as the once upon a time best friends gradually became sworn enemies. Some months later, Fade gave birth to a beautiful baby girl whom she named Boluwatife, Tife for short. Tosin did not even bother to visit her, nor show her any form of happiness towards the baby girl. After Fade finished mourning her husband's family began to tell Tosin's husband, Adeoba, to marry his late cousin's wife. Tosin was so against this move, but Adeoba, her husband, doesn't have a choice, as that is their custom and tradition. That was how the traditional marital rite of Fade was done, and Fade became the second wife of her best friend's husband, Adeoba. Some months later, Fade and Tosin became sworn enemies. They fight over any little thing, from water that was kept in the bedroom to food, even to bed. They could not stand each other's presence. Tosin later got pregnant and gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The two friends now have two daughters who grew up to become best friends. However, each mother did not like the idea of friendship of their daughter to the other. They began poisoning their daughter against the other, telling them lies and trying to break them up. But Tife and Tishe, Tosin's daughter, were wiser than their age. They knew what their mothers were up to. They knew how important their friendship was to the rivalry between their mothers. One day, when Tife and Tishe were young adults, their mothers had a serious fight and told them not to talk to each other ever again. Tife and Tishe began staying away from each other, and this affected their friendship deeply, as they could not understand why they have to suffer for their mother's rivalry. One day, everyone was in the house watching TV when they heard someone shout loudly. They all rushed to check what had happened. They saw Fade lying still on the floor of the bedroom. They were all surprised because she looked fine some minutes ago. They rushed her to the nearest hospital, where it was revealed that Fade had been poisoned. It was a very deadly poison, and time was running out. They were all panicking. Who could have poisoned her? Who wanted her dead? How did she come across the poison? Everyone asked rhetorically. But her daughter Tife thought that it was her stepmother that poisoned her mother. But later on, she found out that her mother, Fade, had mistakenly drank an herb for stomachache, thinking it was edible. Everyone began to pray that Fade should recover and recover fast. Tosin, on the other hand, became bothered as she realized the severity of the situation. She knew that despite their grievances, her best friend's life was in grave danger. She tried to act unbothered, but she became restless and couldn't ignore her feelings anymore. She looked past their differences and she began to look after Fade. Tosin stayed with her in the hospital throughout, praying that God should spare her life. While in the hospital, Tosin remembered all the nice and sweet memories they shared while they were growing up, all the secrets they told each other, what they would like to become in future, and the likes, and she regretted for being the cause of all that has transpired between her and her best friend Fade. Because with the situation on ground, Fade had no choice, as she was only following their custom and tradition. She realized that she hadn't supported Fade in any way since the demise of her husband. She prayed that when Fade regains her health, she will apologize for all her wrongdoings and make amends. Some days later, Fade regained her consciousness. Tosin immediately fell on her knees and pleaded for forgiveness. She realized deep down that she still loved Fade, but the love was overshadowed by anger and resentment. She resented Fade for marrying her husband, and seeing Fade on the dying bed made Tosin realize how much she loved her best friend and would love to continue being friends with her. Fade also apologized and they promised never to fight again. Crying, they hugged each other while their daughters and husband looked on. Their broken bonds were mended, and Tife and Tishe were so happy seeing their mothers in this joyful moment. From that day on, the two families lived in unity and harmony. Fade and Tosin learned the true value of friendship and forgiveness, and their daughters also learned a lesson that will carry them all through their lives. This story teaches us that resentment and anger can only lead to pain and suffering, while letting go will bring about healing and happiness. It is not too late to reconcile with loved ones. The end. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I want to appreciate you all for taking time to watch my video. Please don't forget to leave a comment, like, and also subscribe. Till we meet again in my next video. Please stay tuned and stay blessed. Thank you.